our keynote. So I'm very excited to be able to welcome Dr. Deborah Suarez for us this year as our keynote. Dr. Suarez holds a PhD in language education and an MS in TESOL from the University of Albany. And she also holds an MBA from the University of Maryland. She has served in a variety of roles from teacher, administrator, professor, and English language specialist. Dr. Suarez currently serves on the board of directors for TESOL International Association, and we're very excited to be able to welcome her here today. She also strongly welcomes communication with her via email. The email will show after the session, but it's also in our booklet. Dr. Suarez has a commitment to mentoring individuals, and she welcomes communication that way. So I would like to thank Dr. Suarez in advance and welcome her here.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and good morning, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be here with WATESOL, and certainly an honor to be representing Big TESOL. I am going to share my screen. Okay, can you see that, Kevin? Great. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about this morning. Essentially, everyone, my presentation is about leadership in TESOL. And I am thankful to Kevin for being my co-host. We have a couple of polls to try and get a little bit of interaction going here. So keep attentive, because we will be asking you to respond to some polls. The title of this presentation is Influence and Impact, Remembering TESOL Leadership of the Past and Reimagining Transformational TESOL Leadership for the Future. Let me share with you my strategy for this morning, for the next 40 minutes. I'm going to be sharing with you a discussion about influence and impact. A lot has been written about characteristics of effective leaders, what makes leaders do well in their positions. But sometimes we don't have enough of a conversation about what it is that we're trying to achieve by looking at leadership as something that we are affecting change. We are affecting an impact. We were having an influence. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then I want to bring to your attention the body of literature on transformational leadership. I will be talking a little bit about a framework for understanding TESOL leadership success stories. And I am going to emphasize what I have learned to understand as the power of the convening as a leadership practice. And then finally talk about some exemplary leadership practices. What I'm trying to do here, folks, is to bring together a few bodies of literature from different fields, okay? I'm bringing together the literature of leadership from management and organizational development, coupled with theories of leadership from the educational leadership perspective, as well as bringing in perspectives from my own experiences, from my different roles that I've played, and certainly trying to bring in connections to WATESOL and Big TESOL. So I'm playing around with bringing some ideas here, and from these ideas and different perspectives, trying to come to some innovative approaches. I am hoping that what you will get from this morning is a little bit of interesting information, a way of looking at some old information in a new way, and hopefully to inspire you. We all certainly need inspiration. All right, let's start with what is the primary objective of leadership, right? A lot of times when we talk about leadership, we right away jump into characteristics of leaders. And I've already shared that that's not really where I want to begin. Or we start talking about how to be a leader. And that's not where I want to begin either. I want to begin by talking about what is the primary objective of leadership? Why do we engage in this thing called leadership? To what end? Who are we serving as leaders? There is a great deal of literature on leadership, and overall, what I have found throughout the literature is that leadership is mission accomplishment. Mission accomplished. That what we have done is we as leaders, we have influenced something and we have had an impact. This might seem a little bit different for folks in the education sphere to think about mission accomplished. Well, I think that we can borrow this notion of influence and impact and achieving mission from other fields such as organizational development, business processes, even religious organizations. So let's keep that in mind. As we move forward, what's the objective of leadership? Inevitably, what we want to do is to have an impact. Of course, the context here is educational leadership. So we have a lot of empty desks from my perspective out there, but first I'd like to get to know who's here. So I'd like to start with our first poll. Kevin, would you please put up the first poll for us? So if you can share which best describes your primary ESL, EFL work environment. So please take a minute, look at the list. Would you identify primarily as elementary or secondary, community college, university, four-year college, IELP, private language school, business corporate? Are you working in a workforce program or a hotel? Government-based, whether it's local, regional, or federal, or maybe I didn't capture where you work. I like the idea of doing this as a poll so that we can all get a sense as to who else is here, a sense of us together, who has convened here this morning. Great. So they're going up and down. Okay, so we've got, let me see, K-12, then it looks like private language school, four-year college, and then two-year. Oh, four-year college is second. Other, that's a big amount, 24%. Okay, is everyone finished participating? So take a look, see who the colleagues are here and how you fit in. Okay, thank you. Kevin, can I end the polling or do you have to? Does everyone see the results? Okay, very good. All right, so now we have a better sense as to who's in our group. We certainly don't have a sense of empty desks anymore, so let's move forward. Okay, now my screen, there we go. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to think about, I have a bit of a harder question, okay? So I just asked you, what is your context? The harder question is this. Think about the context in which you work, K-12, private sector, university, college, community college. And I want to ask you to think about this. What is it that you want to influence? What impact do you want to have? What would make you think in your context, mission accomplished? Think about that. Okay, so here are some ideas. Maybe you'd like to give your students a sense of possibility, such as this young man in this photo here. Maybe what you'd like to do is to bring socio-cultural well-being into your classrooms. Are you a teacher educator? Maybe you want to help develop teachers who are confident and capable. Online learning is an issue right now. Maybe this is something that you're focused on, that you want to positively impact online learning. Maybe it's something that we always have been working on, which is achieving greater increasing graduation rates, increasing graduation scores. Maybe what you want to do is to look at family engagement, bringing parents closer into the workspace. Maybe you're more interested in organizational development. Maybe you're interested in publishing, taking a look at the kinds of books that we are bringing into the schools. Maybe you're interested in doing policy, and those are those big binders, policy. The picture that just popped up, maybe you're interested in influencing advocacy, helping others who are not TESOL professionals to understand the issues that TESOL students face, the issues that ELs face, okay? Maybe advocacy. Maybe overall what you are trying to achieve, what you are trying to impact, what you are trying to have an effect upon is how you see education could be in this country. The kind of educational system that you're imagining for the students that you serve, for your colleagues as well. So I'm going to pause there. Please think about that. What is it that you would like to achieve in your context? Okay. So as we move forward throughout the presentation, I would like you to continue to have this in the back of your mind. What would you like to have impact on? What would you like to have influence over and be able to say mission accomplished? Now think about this. What you have in your mind, what it is you're hoping to achieve. What does that say about your values? What does that say about who you are and what you value, what you hold dear, what you hope for yourself, what you hope for your students? Do others have those same values or similar values? Are there others who would have the same sort of wish to have the same sort of impact? Okay. Vision is the starting point here. As effective leaders, what we want to do is to create a vision, to strive toward that vision, to turn that vision into action, and importantly, to ensure that those actions of ourselves as leaders are consistent with our values. Okay, poll number 2. I'd like you to think about where you are this morning. What best describes you? How are you feeling now? What I'm really trying to get at here is, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a leader right here and now? Do you get a sense of yourself as a leader? Or maybe you see yourself as an aspiring leader. You're an aspirational leader. Or do you see yourself more as a follower? So please think about that. Where are you right now in your own sense of your leadership? Kevin, could you put up the next poll? I think we have the community college, the list of primary work sphere up. So I'll end that.
So Deborah, all of the questions are showing all together. So I think we can focus on the question number 2 at the moment, everybody. So please only respond to question number 2.
Oh, I see. You have to scroll down.
Yeah, that's my fault. Sorry, Deborah.
It's all good. Oh, there it is. All right. So there it is. All right, another minute. Wow, this is great. Okay, I'm going to share the results. Okay, 75% say a leader already, 25% an aspirational leader. This is very interesting. 0 have said I'm more of a follower. Okay, very interesting. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. I want to talk about leadership and followership. So you see all these birds here? I got to tell you, it was easy to find images of eagles. Eagles represent leaders. It was pretty easy to find pictures of birds flying in formation. It wasn't as easy to find a little bit less clear who was a leader in the group of birds. But I did find this photo. And what I want to talk about here is that leadership is in concert with followership. There are many resources, a lot of literature devoted to talking about identifying potential leaders, grooming potential leaders. But you know what? What about the followers? Right? Somehow we think about following as passive, or following as not as strong, following as something that is not as valuable. But I want to encourage you to think about leadership and followership in concert. There's a whole body of literature around followership as well. It's not a bad word. The relationship between leaders and what we might call followers is an important part of the theory that I'm sharing with you this morning, the transactional leadership theory. The relationship between leaders and followers comes around a shared sense of value, a shared sense of purpose, and a shared desire for a similar impact, okay? So good followers are really essential to the success of any organization, of any endeavor. Good followers would see their role as essential, and good leaders understand the role of followers as well. It doesn't mean it's passive. You know, a good follower contributes to the sense of shared purpose, contributes to the notion of strategy, and maybe even can be independently working toward that. But a good follower puts their shoulder to that mission together. The ability of a leader to impart that vision and to get followers on board is absolutely essential to accomplishing a goal. So think about that as we move forward. We all want to be leaders, and we all are, but we all can't be leaders in every situation. And as you move into different kinds of organizational contexts, such as I have, moving from higher ed, moving from being a teacher into government, there is somebody always above you, and there is always somebody below you. So followership is most certainly an important concept when we talk about leadership and achieving our goals. Okay. So let's start talking about transformational leadership. Take a little bit of a deeper dive here. Transformational leadership is a leadership model that comes largely from management theory, and there's roughly, I would say, 8 to 10 big theories, big name theories. Transformational leadership is one model that is successfully applied across contexts, across frameworks, across very, very many disciplines. For example, not only educational context, but business management, military leadership, as well as other kinds of organizations. You will find transformational leadership as a concept across organizations, as well as educational context. A recent review of the literature on different kinds of leadership styles and leadership theories has shown that transformational leadership has more research done about it than any other kind of model combined. So what is this thing called transformational leadership? Well, there's a lot to it, and I'm just going to touch on the main concepts this morning, but I encourage you to do your own deeper dive. And I will be sharing with Kevin the reference list, which he will make available for you after the conference. But in a nutshell, the basic concept of transformational leadership was introduced by actually a political analyst, James Burns. And transformational leadership is a leadership style in which leaders encourage, inspire, and motivate followers to innovate and create change that will help grow and shape the future success of an organization, the goal that you're working toward, the intended outcome, okay? Keywords: encourage, inspire, motivate, okay? Innovate and create change. I'm sure you've heard a lot about change management and how leaders can manage change management. So some of the key concepts. Oops. To move my videos. Okay. Transformational leaders have the ability to motivate the follower to accomplish more than what the follower planned to accomplish. Now let's talk about that word again, follower. Depends on the context that you're in, right? So let's take a simple context, workforce. Let's suppose you're a manager, you are a director. Well, the follower there might be your employee. Let's say in a schooling context, you are a principal. Well, in that case, the follower might be your teachers. Or let's say in a schooling context, you're the teacher. A follower might be the principal, okay? So it's the one that you're bringing in, the one, and you'll understand as you go through. The follower is who you're connecting with. So transformational leaders have the ability to motivate the follower to accomplish more than what the follower planned to accomplish all on their own. Transformational leaders and transformational followers motivate each other to accomplish more, to reach higher. This is a key concept of transformational leadership, is that you help each other to reach beyond even what you originally had anticipated, what you originally had envisioned. Transformational leaders inspire followers. They concentrate on the follower's values, and they help the follower to align these values with the values of the organization, the mission, or the intended outcome. Last one here. Transformational leaders emphasize new possibilities. They're able to promote a compelling vision of the future, and a strong sense of purpose will always guide their vision. Okay, so what are some words that we can come back to? Impact. What are we hoping to change? Influence, two different words, and not the same, right? Influence can be a little bit more on the side. Impact is achieving of that mission, achieving that goal. Vision, purpose, shared purpose, commonality, of course, the motivation and the inspiration. These are the key concepts related to this thing called transformational leadership. Now, of course, like many theories, they will be picked up by others and taken several steps further. So an individual by the name of Bass extended this theory of transformational leadership. And what Bass talked about, said, you know what, there's really 4 different components of transformational leadership. And the framework that Bass shares with us is these 4 other circles: intellectual stimulation, individualized consideration, idealized influence, and inspirational motivation. Essentially, let's take a look at these first 2 circles here: idealized, influenced, and inspirational motivation, because both of these are connected with the leader's ability to formulate a vision and to articulate a shared vision. And as we said before, developing a transparent vision and inspiring your followers to pursue the vision is of great importance for transformational leaders. Think back on what you had thought about earlier. What do you want to impact? Graduation rates, family engagement, policy? Can't do it alone, right? We never can we do it alone. What is that vision that we have? What are the values behind that vision? And begin to connect with others, and together to begin to frame that. Okay. So here's this was again taken a little bit further, looking at the actual practices in the idealized influence and the inspirational motivation. So what does that look like? Idealized influence. That's when the leader is driven with a purpose, but also is a role model, is walking the talk, is demonstrating, is behaving in such a way that is aligned and that is consistent with what they are trying to inevitably achieve. Inspirational motivation. Transformational leaders will inspire. They will be inspiring. Sometimes you'll see the words charming, that they will, that they're easy talkers. Those are some of the things, but they will inspire followers however they can in any way that they are able to. Okay. Let's start thinking about WATESOL. All right, so transformational leadership is a very good framework that we can have, but it's also a good framework for understanding actual leadership in action, I guess, followership in action as well. When you go through the literature in transformational leadership, you will see that there are lots and lots of examples. These theories go back 25 years, but even today, this framework is applied to trying to understand the kinds of leadership that we have going on right now. And again, in business, it's applied to trying to understand what's going on in Amazon. It's trying to understand what's going on with Google, the former success behind Yahoo. Okay, it's right now as a framework being used to understand educational policy, school reform. Okay, but let's take a moment and think back on WATESOL, because this is why we are here. This is the 50th anniversary and the celebration of WATESOL. I had the distinct pleasure of having several binders of WATESOL newsletters dropped off by Heather Harris. Thank you, by the way, Heather. I'm still enjoying them. But I had the opportunity to take a look at some of these newsletter archives to try to think about what's the legacy of WATESOL? What are some of the key things here that have been going on? And I have this, I don't know if you can really see very well, but I will read to you. This is amazing. It's dated, I don't know if you can see it, June 11th, 1970. On June 11th, 1970, and I'm reading just from the first couple of sentences, a group of about 35 ESOL teachers and others professionally concerned with ESOL met at Georgetown University to discuss the first steps in forming a Washington area affiliate of TESOL, Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages. Presiding was John H. Underwood of the American Language Institute at George Washington, who together with Jean Longmire conceived and planned this first meeting. Well, there you go. I'm holding up that very first sentence, and it's exactly what we've been talking about for the past 7 to 10 minutes. Two folks coming together, well, obviously more 35, but they're naming two folks coming together, focusing on an issue, a couple of issues. We've got problems here. We've got to come together. We've got to make a change. Let's bring all of our heads together and start coming together on a vision of what this thing might become. I don't know. When I saw that, I was just so incredibly touched. I think it's amazing, and I'm so honored to actually be holding this and to be looking at it. All right, convening. Now, let me share with you. Winter 1971, the newsletter, volume 1, number 2. You can see it there. This is, from the get-go, illustrative of what I've been sharing with you about the characteristics of transformational leadership. Okay, I'm only going to read a few sentences from the beginning, and then I'll skip through for you and read a few more sentences a little later on. Okay, a little over 8 months ago, WATESOL was but an idea being tossed around in a faculty lounge. Today, I'm happy to report the Washington Area TESOL Association is very much alive. Our paid membership is now nearly 200 strong, and attendance at meetings has been as high as 170. The numbers don't reveal the whole story. More important is the variety of interests and programs that these members represent. We're beginning to get a picture of ESOL in the Washington area. Okay, I want to scroll down. You can't see all of it, but I do want to scroll down. That they are talking about what is their vision, and they are talking about the problems that they're trying to address. Okay. a little bit further down. The project, WATESOL, is primarily at the moment fact-finding. It's on a fact-finding mission. We want to understand what programs exist, what are their aims, how many people are involved, what are their problems, et cetera, et cetera. And once the data is collected, we'll be able to get a clearer picture of what's happening in ESOL in the Washington area. So again, transformational leaders coming together, talking about shared values, trying to understand what the problems are in order to inform an agenda. And I had a really smile at the end here when I saw at the end of the letter, we've got a lot to do, yes, but we are off to a good start. I wonder, and that's signed John H. Underwood. I wonder if John could have ever imagined that 50 years later, we would be here and WATESOL would be continuing to go strong as ever. So I wanted to share that with you, and I want to put a plug into the effort that WATESOL is doing right now. They're archiving these newsletters, and Heather and some of the others at WATESOL are leading the efforts, and I'm sorry if I don't know all the names of you who are leading these efforts. But I think this is a wealth of information for anyone who was looking into whether it's leadership development or how issues in TESOL have changed over time. Let me share to that point as to how issues may have changed, over time. A lot of the issues are the same. Professional development, professionalizing the field, trying to understand how to connect with locals and regionals, and then of course the national TESOL Association. I do want to say that WATESOL is special. All the affiliates are special, but WATESOL is special because it's in the DC area. And because it's in the DC area, it's been able to affect not only local and regional education, but it has affected the growth in the national scene as well. Of course, we had all of, it has been right there with Big TESOL, right there with the development of Center for Applied Linguistics, American Institutes for Research. You can just right there with the development, all of those. Advocacy is a strong theme throughout these newsletters, constant, although that word is not necessarily used except after a while. But advocacy is an important piece. And then of course there's the personal issues, the human capital that WATESOL has brought to the DC area, and then national and international. There are so many WATESOL presidents or past presidents who have become TESOL presidents. I can think of Brock Brady, for example. There are many WATESOL board members who have become Big TESOL board members, TESOL International board members, or working on ISs, having leadership in ISs. Heather is one who comes to mind, and many of you who are here as well. So TESOL, when you look back at WATESOL's history, it really does demonstrate a lot of what we're talking about in terms of transformational leadership. But let's move on. I talked about the last two circles. Let's talk a little bit more about intellectual stimulation and individualized consideration. Okay, so these two. And again, this is an extension trying to better operationalize transformational leadership. So transformational leaders are people-driven. They're focused on individuals, not to use them, not to get them to do their work, not to only have influence through them, but a genuine concern for the needs of followers. If we were in a workplace situation, this leadership theory would be talking about employee engagement, that the manager or the director is there to be concerned for employees and their feelings and their wellness and their well-being. That is an important piece here. Intellectual stimulation. Transformational leaders encourage innovation. They don't do the innovation all by themselves, but they encourage the innovation. They challenge their followers to be innovative and creative. Okay. And I realize I'm just looking at the time. I'll try to pick up my pace. Again, this theory has been pushed forward, and we now have looking at actual exemplary practices, leadership practices. And I want to draw your attention to these two categories. Transformational leaders encourage the heart. Transformational leaders inspire vision, a shared vision. Okay, here's the third poll. If I had to, I could gather 3 or more people around a particular issue. If you had to. 100%. I am so glad to see that. I banked on that. I thought you would, I was banking that you would say that, because if we look at if we look at everything in this circle, encouraging the heart, inspiring a shared vision, all of this is about bringing together people. And it's what I like to call, and what I have come to understand, is what I call the power of the convening. I have been now in the federal environment for several years, and I've had the opportunity to work in the White House task forces, White House offices. I've worked in the U.S. Department of Education, and there is a lot you can't do that you cannot do when you are in the federal environment. But you know what you can do? You can convene. So I was in a White House office. We did not do grants. We did not do contracts. We did not do policy, but we had the power of the convening, bringing folks together. That, and then the energy, creating that energy with the people that we have brought together, who brought different perspectives on a problem, different perspectives on potential ways of solving that problem, or at least addressing that problem. So if you can bring together, you need to have a meeting around the issue that you identified for yourself in the beginning of my presentation. Do you want to affect family engagement? Do you want to affect graduation scores? You just said that you know at least 3 other people that you can bring together. And that's what they did. Well, they had 35 people at the beginning of WATESOL. You can do it with 3. Okay, the power of the convening. All right, let's talk about this. These 2 sections of the circle: modeling the way, enabling others to act. I've been in the field for, I'm not going to say how long. If you want to do the math, you can look at my resume, but it's been a long time. And I can tell you, I have a mentor. I have a mentor that I meet informally with every so often. He's not in TESOL. He's not even in education, but I meet with him, and he just inspires me. I have a professional coach I meet with every 2 years, every 2 weeks. I make sure that I am connecting with somebody who can invigorate me. Whenever I have the opportunity, I try to be a mentor. And Kevin mentioned that in the beginning of the session. I try to do that informally. So now let's go to the next poll. I have a professional mentor, yes or no? Okay. We have 33% say yes, they have a professional mentor. 67% say they do not. Okay, maybe we should work on that. Okay, let's go to the next one. I am a professional mentor. Can we go to the next poll? I am a professional mentor. Interesting. Many more are saying yes. Do you see the results? Many more are saying yes, that they are a mentor. And I can see that since we're educators. Everybody should be a mentor and have a mentor at some point. as they're going through, because it gets us to being able to model and receive the modeling, being able to encourage action on behalf of others. Okay, I'm just going quickly now through this, but these are obviously some ways of practically engaging, and those last several bullets there that are in red, I wanted to highlight. So get a mentor, be a mentor, pursuing a certificate, participate in leadership programs, running for WATESOL board, running for TESOL International board. Clearly activities that you already are engaged in that you can continue. Okay, so what I want to leave you with is this notion of transformational leadership is connected with followership. Followership is not a bad word. We are in this together. We are trying to inspire each other, motivate each other, because we have a shared purpose. We have the shared purpose of TESOL, right? And then within TESOL, we have the different areas that we are most interested in impacting and having an influence on. We can come together around our shared values and our shared desire to have an impact. I'm going to leave you with a thought from a dear friend that I had named Julie Lively. We were assistant professors together way back when, and she was a researcher looking at educational leadership. And she focused on what she called and how she described it, minority populations and successful practices in minority populations. And she had a dilemma, an epistemological dilemma. And her dilemma was, how she phrased it, how can I be consistent in my everyday work that I do every day with and for minority populations? How can that be consistent with my values that I have? And she wrote the most amazing piece of scholarship I have ever read, and it's called My Last Lecture, What I Hold Critical in My Faith, Life, and Profession. She wrote that in response to an assignment. She was asked, if you were going to give a last lecture, if you knew it was your last lecture, what would you say? And she took that to heart. She's 34 years old. And it's the most amazing piece of scholarship. It'll be on the reference list. I encourage you to read it. But what she says is that I can't be consistent in my values if I am not speaking truth to those people that I am trying to help, that I am not speaking what they hear as being truth, that is truth to them. And she ends her article by saying, know that we do not exist without others. We are part of them. She finished presenting that speech and she got into a car and drove, and she was killed in a car accident, 34 years old. It's the most amazing piece of scholarship, and I'm sharing with you because I find something in that very, very meaningful to me every single time I read it. And when I was preparing this presentation for you, I was brought back to Julie's words. And in these times, this struggle that we're all going through, we're alone and we feel alone, but we're not. We have shared values. We have shared desires of the kind of world, the kind of educational system that we want to realize. And we can do that together through the power of the convening, by being leaders, by being good followers. And we can continue the vision of WATESOL from 50 years ago for the next 50 years. Please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much for this honor, Kevin, WATESOL, and all of my dear friends. Have a great conference. Be good to each other.
Thank you so much, Deborah.